Well, it was about 1 month ago, in advance of that record-setting PWHL game at Rogers Arena. We were surprised to see former Canucks GM and president Mike Gillis appear in our studio window here. Turns out Mike and his son Spencer were recording with Irf Ghaffar on the Down to Earth podcast, both being big supporters of women's hockey. Spencer is representing a number of the players in the PWHL, so we called him in for an on-the-fly interview. We were in the throes of the JT Miller Elias Pettersson matter. Mike shared some thoughts, and so we thought we'd ask him back now that the matter has been resolved. He joins us from his home in Victoria. Good to see you. Good to hear your voice again, Mike. How are you?
Good, Matt. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, first off, quite a night for the PWHL. Crowd over 19,000 at Rogers, record-setting crowd. What did you make of the experience? What do you think it says about our city and the evolution of the women's game?
You know, it was a great game. It was remarkable to see the demographic in the stands because there were I'd say at least half of the crowd were young girls, women under the age of 15 with their whole teams and proudly wearing their jerseys, and they were very loud and happy. And I think it bodes very well for hockey generally, but certainly for women's hockey.
We have wondered about a Vancouver franchise in the PWHL, and I know it's difficult because then suddenly it becomes quite expensive for travel. But what are your thoughts there? Do you see a day where Vancouver can participate in this league? Absolutely.
I see a day when there will be 24 franchises. And if you look at the demographics around Canada in particular, the growth of girls hockey versus the decline in boys hockey is fairly prolific. And, I think hockey is such a great sport for multiple reasons for kids growing up that now you're seeing young women have the benefit of all of those features. And, our daughter Kate was a very good ice hockey player as well as field hockey. And we were involved in her experiences growing up, and it's just a happy environment, and I think a very welcoming one for young girls. And it's a great team sport. You learn a lot. They have a tremendous amount of fun. So I'm not shocked at all that it's the PWHL is doing as well as it is.
Yeah, Blake was at the game with his daughter and her team and just raved about the experience, the energy, the electricity in the arena that night. And Mike's, let's not sell Kate short here. She was the captain of Canada's women's field hockey team for a long, long period. Remember you referencing her at your very first press conference when you stepped into Rogers Arena. Speaking of, last Friday, a transformative day for the Canucks, Mike, the biggest single-day team makeover in decades. What are your thoughts regarding what the Canucks did in bringing the Miller-Pettersson rift to a closure, or at least for now?
I'm not very close to it, and there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that people are never made aware of in circumstances like this. And I think in general, I'm sure Jim had that deal done before it was announced. That's why he did the media piece to set the market for it. All in all, I think they came out of what was a very challenging situation with a job well done. I mean, whenever you can acquire a top four defenseman in this league and then get the player signed for a contract that appears to be fairly reasonable, I guess we'll see how well he plays, but I think that's good stuff. And especially in Vancouver, you can't have enough defensemen. You just can't. And if you want to perform at a higher level, you need to have the best defense you can possibly have.
Why in Vancouver can't have enough defensemen?
Just the travel and the injuries and the wear and tear on defenders is, I think, from the studies we did, was more prevalent than a lot of other places, and that's why we focus so much on fatigue management, is to try and keep guys healthier. But even then, when you get into the playoffs, if you don't have enough good defensemen, you're not going to go that far. It's that simple.
What do you make of the other pieces in the trade? Hedl, Lino. Hedel and O'Connor?
I really don't know enough about them, Matt, to formulate an opinion, a valid one. I think they're probably solid players. They seem like depth players to me, but um, quality NHL depth players are valuable as well. And but I don't follow the Canucks closely enough to know enough about those two guys.
It became very public, as you mentioned, and partly, if not mostly, by the club's design. What's your assessment on how the Canucks managed the matter, and particularly that Rutherford interview in the Globe and Mail?
I think that we had different players at the time and different relationships with those players. So we had what I would consider a very forward communication strategy with them. And when things were not happening the way high functioning organizations happen, they were happy to come to us and describe it. And we worked with them to fix problems. My opinion is that got somehow way out of hand for far too long. And I guess you can presume that people will work things out and hope they do, or you get involved. And like I said, I'm not close enough to the situation to suggest that someone did something incorrect or wrong, but to get into that position over such a significant period of time doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But they would have their reasons, and they need to answer the questions.
You mentioned to us last month that you would keep Pettersson. How would you handle him now, his struggles and the aftermath in terms of trying to get the player back on track?
Well, I think you need to really support him and surround him with the right people, both on and off the ice. And, they have kind of a younger, I mean, it's hard to describe what the team is, whether it's experienced or not experienced, younger, and with the Canucks, we were really fortunate. We spent a tremendous amount of time on leadership and leadership skills and what that means. And that is not something that comes naturally to people. It's a work in progress, and real life examples are very helpful in understanding your role as a leader. And, there's been a lot of media reports. Like I said, I don't follow them very closely, if at all, but it seems to me like they've got a young captain and they've got some young, really star players, and they probably need some help in understanding how a leader operates in that environment, because it's a very challenging one.
Hedel, Pettersson, O'Connor have brought some energy and enthusiasm over the last few games. Rick Tocchet was talking about how you can get a total team reset where everybody sort of feels like they're starting from zero. When you change that much of a lineup in the season, that it brings an element to the team that freshens the room and the throes of the long 82-game NHL season. Did you ever have an experience like that when you were GM here? Maybe that deadline when Higgins and Lapierre came into the fold?
Yeah, we had that. We were very fortunate. We had a really good pro scouting staff, and they identified our needs in roster construction. And so even though those guys were kind of under the radar, they brought an element to the team that was exciting and different. Really solid additions. The one time where I thought that, and it wasn't through acquiring a player, it was just through how we behaved, is when we lost 9 home games in a row, which was in my first year. And it was remarkable how we managed to lose them, because we should have won probably 8 of them, but we managed to lose them. And our reset came in a meeting with the team where we said, look, we're 100% behind you guys. We believe in this team. We believe in the coaching staff. We know you're good. Let's just start having some fun and start looking at this a little differently. And I think the team went on to win 27 of the next 32 games or something after that. And sometimes it's just a solid showing of confidence in the team and the people that are operating it that can propel you and give you that fresh start. Like everyone was so nervous about losing all the games, and then, okay, we've lost them. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's think about it this way. And that team just went on a tear after that, and didn't look back. And some players really took it upon themselves to be better. And so that's the one time. And I think what the Canucks have done will add a fresh perspective. It will bring different kinds of skill sets to the game, and it might have the exact same effect where a guy like Pettersson will find another player to play with that they just click, and suddenly he gets right back into form.
Yeah. We had Max Lapp here on the show last year during the playoffs, and he said to us he looks back so fondly on his time here in Vancouver. I mean, he mentioned he had played for two teams, including his home province, Montreal Canadiens, earlier in that season, then off to Anaheim, was really struggling, got here and felt like he had a home because he had a role and he had opportunity. I look at Philip Hedl, Mike, who has been a bottom six center for the New York Rangers, playing behind some pretty good players, and you just watch the joy and the enthusiasm and the energy that he has out there. I know it's only been 3 games. He's got a chance to play second line center here. He's got a chance to play on the power play here. He sees the opportunity before him, and it looks like it's infectious. Can it be infectious when a player senses and sees his opportunity within a club?
Absolutely. I think, players are extremely smart and experienced in what their role should be on a team and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And when you have roster construction that allows a player to really play to their strengths and have it appreciated, no matter what the role is, it lifts everybody, not just that player, but it's a clear indication that the team has it right when they put a player in the right role, in the right position. And everybody on the roster appreciates that. There's always some guys that might get displaced when you make trades like this. They might go from being a second line left winger to a third line left winger when you acquire somebody. But if you present the right opportunity for them, they're going to embrace it. And as long as they feel like they're valued and they feel like it's up to them to show people and to perform at a higher level, and they're in the right spot on your roster, most players respond very positively to that.
I want to pick your brain on this Quinn Hughes matter. He has an injury. He has missed the last few games. We'll see if he plays tomorrow night against Toronto. But, of course, he is a member of Team USA at the upcoming Four Nations face-off. Now, you've dealt with this uniquely from the standpoint of a player agent with guys who are ticketed for international play, and as a club president and GM with guys who are ticketed for international play. If you're Quinn Hughes' agent right now, what's the conversation with regards to participation in this tournament?
Well, it's going to start with his health, number one. And, every player wants to represent their country and play in these circumstances of best on best. It's one of the few opportunities in your entire lifetime you get to do it. And so players are going to naturally feel really compelled to want to participate, no matter what is happening otherwise. And, I think as an agent, you've got to be the voice of reason. He's got a long, long career ahead of him. He is an exceptional player, as everyone knows. He's the captain of a team. Balancing those priorities is a really challenging thing, especially for young players, because they might not get this opportunity again. And it, even though it isn't the Olympics or it isn't, a fully comprised tournament without obviously the Russian players involved, but it's still an opportunity to play as close to best on best as you can. And, as an agent, you just try and be the voice of reason and balance out what the long-term effects could be versus the short-term enjoyment of playing.
What about as a manager, Mike? You got an important player who's nicked and is going to put himself in the line of fire in playing these international games. What's the conversation if you're the manager?
You do everything to stop him from playing.
Do you really? Because it is. You just mentioned it's sensitive. They're sensitive. They're compelled to play. They're going to want to play.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that in season tournaments like the Olympics, they raise these very concerns. Before I got to the Canucks, Sammy Salo got hurt in the Olympics, and a lot of team owners and a lot of managers are really concerned in these types of events that a player does get injured and misses the remainder of the season, and you miss the playoffs. And 8 months later, no one cares about the player not participating. They care about missing the playoffs, and you may lose your job over it. So there's there's some selfish reasons for a manager not to want a player who is at risk to play, but ultimately it's going to end up in the player's hands, and you just hope they balance everything appropriately. And even though you might not want them playing, the experience of playing is usually a really good one. And for Quinn Hughes, I would imagine he's going to be in a room with a lot of really experienced players and see how they operate and see how they prepare, and gain some real benefit from that.
Yeah. What did you see out of guys like Luongo, Kessler, and others after they had completed the 2010 Olympic tournament here in Vancouver?
I thought that they were far better prepared to handle the extreme pressure of playing in a Stanley Cup final after that experience. The eyes of the world were on them. It was in Canada. Clearly, the U.S. versus Canada was a huge, huge event. And they had their issues with each other and different people building up to those games. But I think they came out of it with a profound sense of respect for everyone involved, and the experience elevated their play.
Not sure I've ever asked you this, but where were you for the Golden Goal?
I was here in Vancouver. I didn't go to the game, but we actually went on a brief family vacation at the start of the Olympics for a charity event that I had supported, and it was the only time we could go. So,
right.
Like it was, I didn't have any other opportunities to do it. So we did that, but I was back to watch it, and it was a pretty special game all around.
It sure was. Do you what do you think the buy-in will be on this Four Nations tournament from players?
Well, like I said, it's tough because of the geopolitical situation going on and the fact that you don't have the best of the best participating. That the intrigue and the ability to host more nations, I think, is it's not as good as it could be, but it is what it is. And I think it'll be exciting for the players. I think it'll be an opportunity for other guys to take a break and get healthy, and get their energy back. But any time you have a chance to play against the other top players in your particular sport, I think it's really meaningful. And I think it's an opportunity for young players for growth. I think it's an opportunity for older players almost to say goodbye in certain respects. And I really like these tournaments for those reasons. I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people to accomplish things that they might not get another chance to do.
And for NHL GMs, maybe they take their lead, an opportunity to get a little bit of R&R with the family, swing some sticks, put some lines in the water, catch some fish.
Perhaps you never know. There's always, it's tough to get away from hockey when you're in that role. So you're always compelled to watch it and see what's going on and see how your own players are doing and how they're responding, and make sure they have the right support when they get back.
Yeah, I have no doubt all Canucks eyes will be on Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson in this tournament as it goes forward.
Yeah, and, it's funny, Matt, you say that, because Pettersson, I think, is a really good player. And I think he's going to be a really good player. And, I think he's going to be a really good player. And, it's funny, you say that, because Pettersson, if somebody is going to have an opportunity here to almost have a reset in certain ways.
Yep.
And he'll have an opportunity to be not as prominent in his role, but still prominent enough. And he'll have really good players around him to observe and watch. And, I think for a player like him, this could be really beneficial.
Yep, we've mentioned that as well. A springboard out of the Four Nations for Elias Pettersson. Marvelous stuff, Mike. Thanks for the time. It was great catching up again here. All the best there on the island. We'll catch up down the road.
Thanks, Matt. You take care.